Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about hydro dipping. Today I'm going to be showing you a do-it-yourself kit from Atrend. It's called Liquid Ink. Now before you get started, when you open up the box, you see there's a bunch of instructions on this side of the opening of the box. Read this carefully first before you get started. Inside, what comes in the kit is you're going to have a primer and paint, activator, and a clear coat, and a couple prints to use. They also provide you with a mask and some gloves and some other materials for prepping up your piece that you want to hydro dip. Now for today's video, I'm going to be dipping two mounting kits. One's for a 300 and the other one's for an F150. These are just two kits I had on my display floor, and I decided they needed to be spruced up a bit, and the liquid ink was going to be perfect for doing that as opposed to just regular painting it. I'm going to be using two different prints. One's going to be non-customizable and the other one will be customizable. I'll explain that later, because on some of the prints from Liquid Ink, we can actually change the color to give it more of a custom look and theme it better to the vehicle. Now, when it comes to liquid dipping, you can pretty much hydro dip or water transfer anything you want. The only thing I would suggest not to do it to would be things like wood or MDF in particular, because you are dunking this into water. A material like MDF, though you could probably hydro dip it, it's going to pull in a little moisture at the same time and you're just going to wreck the piece pretty much immediately. So I would stick to preferably plastic pieces and or other types of materials that aren't really subjected or won't be damaged by moisture. So now we're going to do this a little bit out of sequence as opposed to what the box says, because we're just going to go straight into it, but I will be covering everything that you need to do this properly. So let's start with the F-150 piece. First we're going to prep it. So we're going to scuff it first and then we're going to clean it off before we actually paint it. So you do a crisscross motion. Basically we're just going to give the paint a bit of a tooth, that way it can adhere to this thing properly. Okay, now I'm done lightly sanding it. What I'm going to do now is take the tack cloth and lightly go over it to get rid of all the particles. Remember, we're also wearing the gloves because you don't want to get your oils all over the piece that you're trying to paint, because it can contaminate it and then you're not going to get a good finish. So just go over this, go thoroughly, take your time, and make sure you get everything off the piece. And also, if you have like compressed air, go ahead and blow it off first and get all the stuff off of it. Okay, both our dash kits are prepped. Now we're ready to use the primer. So this is a primer and a base coat. It's white. Now when you're spraying, you want to stay, let's say, 1.5 feet away minimum, and you do nice even strokes across. You're not going to go, don't do little like that. Go nice and even across it. And just keep going until you get full coverage. Now I've made a few passes with the primer and I have a nice light coat on here. If you want to really take your time, wait like 10 minutes in between coats, let it tack up again, and then apply another layer. So we still have a little bit of a ways to go. Okay, now the garage floor looks like the production facility of Nintendo, for those of you that remember Game Boy Color. Now, you see here on the F-150 piece, it's just the regular primer and base coat, because we're going to use the non-customizable film on this one. This is the money film. And then over here, I had the base coat and primer as well. But then we've also painted it in red for the final base coat, because this is, I just used some interior paint, typically that you'd use on plastics, just because I thought it was appropriate for the application. And what this is going to do is, when we lay on the customizable film, which is the carbon fiber, we're going to let the red come through on this one. Now that our primer is all dry and we're ready to do the water transfer, now we're going to use the activator on the film before we actually dip it. Take notes on the film before you open up your packaging. It's going to say place on water shiny side up, and on this other film, place on watercolor side down. So remember that, because it's very important. Now a couple notes before I dip this. Try to grab the piece from behind. See how I'm grabbing it right here? Nowhere near the finished part, because if I hold it from any part here, it's not going to transfer properly. Also, when I was painting this, I really took my time, waited in between coats. I used a heat gun as well to help cure this, so be patient, because if you get too hasty when you're painting and you're just going to have all these mess ups, it's going to take you way longer. Because dipping it's quick, it's just doing the paint prep that takes a little bit of time. Right now we're hydrating it, so we're just letting it sit. Now we made sure to use two people to lay it in, and we kind of curve the edges with the tape because the tape holds it together. That way we don't wet this other side. Now we can hit it with the activator, and with the activator we're going to let set for 15 seconds. So you see after you take it out, it transfers over pretty nicely. Now I would practice this a couple of times. I'm probably going to redo this one because I'm not too happy with some of the parts on it. But if you take your time, it does transfer over pretty good. Both pieces are done now. You can see on the carbon fiber look, the red's coming through quite nicely. You can make that whatever color you want. It's going to be silver and whatever your base coat is. I double dipped the money one again just to see what it would do, because this is also a video to see so you guys can see what doing other things do, so you don't have to do it if you don't like it. So part of the edges didn't cover fully, so I was just kind of curious what would happen if you were to dip it again. And the kind of effect from far away, it just looks like bills that are stacked on top of stacked bills. Up close though, because it is translucent, you can kind of see that the prints are overlaying. If you were to get really detailed about it, some of you might like that, some of you might not like that. So you can double dip it. I still have to clear coat these still, but you can do certain things with it. What I noticed with this kind of material, if you're going to do a dash kit or anything, because you're laying it on flat, when you have something with curves like this or in here, that requires more surface area. So in here, you see, we weren't able to cover that. That doesn't matter because on a dash kit on this particular piece, there's another piece that goes there. So you have to consider things like that you're about to dip. When you're laying on something flat and then you're putting something with complex curves in, complex curves actually have more area. If you were to flatten this, it's going to be much bigger. So you have to compensate and consider things like that. So try to keep whatever you're dipping flat is what I would recommend. Okay, pieces are all dipped, transfer went all over nicely. Now we just have to protect it. So we rinsed it off, and now we're just going to provide a clear coat. When you're done with the aerosol cans, if you still have material in it, turn them upside down and spray it for a couple seconds, and let the air pull it all the way through, but then there's no material, that way you don't gum up the nozzle. If you have completed, don't just chuck these away. There are some places, like in my area, we can recycle these, so be responsible and dispose of these things properly. Well guys, hopefully you learned something new about a new product on the market. Things to keep in mind again, be patient when you're painting, practice. Use some really small items and practice and really learn the nature of this material, because on the videos I've watched, they make it look really easy, which it is once you understand the nature of the material. So take your time with it. Another thing, angle is huge. So putting this piece at that 30-degree angle makes a huge difference. I just tried to make it flat just to see what would happen, and it's like air gets in between, and the material isn't designed to lay on flat like this. It kind of just goes on better at an angle. So I've already made all those mistakes for you guys, so put it at an angle. Water temperature, 90 degrees does, I believe, make a difference. When we were waiting a little bit too long and the water got really cold, it didn't seem to transfer that well at all. So, or having too hot, the film wants to break apart too quickly. And when they say don't submerge the film in water, they mean it, because we had a little bit of the water come up and over the film, and on the top side that's not designed to be touched with water, the film just starts to instantly break. So those instructions, you have to go by them, or else you're just going to be redoing and redoing it. Then the tape on the perimeter again, that helps hold it all together. That way when you're dipping it in, it doesn't break it all apart. Like it stated before, try to only dip items that aren't susceptible to moisture. Now it does say you can do wood, don't do MDF, because like I said before, MDF pulls a lot of moisture, so there are kinds of woods that you could, and if it was varnished and everything, it would be fine to dip it in. Just keep in mind that, you know, you don't want to put in any type of material in water that is going to be damaged by it. To check out more stuff from me, make sure to check out my website at www.gofasthavefun.ca, and also check out Atrend's website at atrendusa.com.